prayer? No, mind, I will. Okay, I'm sorry. I know what that's like. Lord, thank you for the blessings you pour upon us each and every moment of our lives. Lord, thank you for allowing us this freedom here to come together in this great free country. Lord, we ask you that you be present in this meeting and that we keep you on our minds and hearts as we know that the reason we're here is that we're to be one with you and one with each other as you are one with the Father. We pray these things in your name, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Well, we have a later after this meeting, we have Terry Lemming, and he had mentioned that on TV, and I've gotten a lot of calls. So, oh, by the way, I just wanted to say this. I've got the Robert's Rules of Order, and Scott Fitchett, how do I say your last name? Fritchie's our sergeant at arms, so try to maintain, order. If you're called on, then you can, say something when you're done talking to somebody else. So I'd like to maintain order and no yelling and screaming. So it's, it's a Robert's Rule of Order. That's all. It's the same at all meetings. I believe that, and I have a dream that we can really take over the township if we do what we have pledged to do. There were 37,000 registered voters in Lockport Township, and 7,000 of them voted Democratic. And my challenge that I put forward to all committee people is spend 10 minutes a day, make 2 phone calls, and if you don't have 10 minutes a day to go for a walk, maybe on the weekends, and it's been an hour. I believe if we do that, we'll be able to own this township. Another thing that I'd ask people to do is to bring a guest, so that at every meeting that we have, so that we can move ahead. Problem that we're situated with, yes, John?
Sorry to interrupt. Could you repeat those numbers?
37,000.
37?
Yes.
And how many showed at the polls?
7,000 voted Democratic.
Oh, okay.
That's the only number I gave. Okay, and you can get that, and I've got that in the printout from the Cook County Clerk's Office.
Will County. That's less than...
I'm sorry, Will County, not Cook County. Cook County would be a lot more.
Bill, that still amounts to less than 20%, actually less than 19% of total registered voters showed up the Democrat Senate.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, is that there are so many people out there, and I'm sure you're running into that as you go out, and as you realize that there's so many different topics that even the hardcore Democrats don't agree with what's happening. So we don't have to really pick a fight. All we have to do is pick something that we agree on. Now, at the last meeting, this is kind of sucky, is at the last meeting that we had with the Central Committee, there were 2 executive meetings. At both those executive meetings, George tried to get me kicked off as chairman, and at both executive meetings, he was told he can't do that. That's beyond his authority. He also restricted me from the GOP data center. Now, the problem with that is that I can't give out that information to you that I don't have. So, I'll be working on that, so I don't have the GOP data center. But what I do have is the Will County printout, and I can share that with you for your precinct. Now, there's been questions in the past as far as what you need to do to be a committee person. And to be a committee person, what you need to do is give me your resume, give me what you want to do or what you're going to do for your particular precinct, and then I want to sit down face to face with you. We'll go over the resume and the documentation that you said you're going to do, and that is to call on at least 2 people a day, which is 10 minutes a day in your precinct, and then bring 2 people or bring a person to a meeting a new person to a meeting. So those are the responsibilities that were given to all the people, all the committee people, and that's what they've been doing as far as the people that I've appointed. And again, I feel that we've got, you know, till a year and a half, what is that, 18 months before we can, you know, turn it around. And with, like John said, only 18% voted Democratic. I mean, it's a huge thing that we have to work with the people. So again, I believe that we have a country to save. I think too, especially, you know, those of us who have lived in Chicago, or Chicago Metro, is Mike Madigan ran the state for how many years because he controlled his ward. And he was able to, you know, actually control everything that happened. I believe that we can do that too in Lockport if we control Lockport. So we can do exactly what Mike Madigan did for years. One of the things too that I've run into questions about is, you know, somebody questioned whether how many people I meet. What I do is I'm retired, and I'll put on maybe 8 to 12 miles a day walking my precinct, and I'll meet people in the precinct, and I'll you know, no matter what they're doing, they might be walking their dog, they might be cleaning up the yard, and I have this sheet. Now this here, this is what the data center looks like when you get it from the GOP. And it gives you the address, the telephone number, the person's name, how many times they voted, who they voted for, and what their age is. And so it's, you know, it's a wealth of information that you can use as you're walking the street. Because if it's a Republican, I'll go to the door. And this is another thing I wanted to show you. I'm not sure if you saw this, but this has been really, really popular for me. And that is, I've got $1 million bill. And the other day I was walking up to a guy, he had his dog on the front porch, and he said, "I don't want any." I said, "You don't want any what?" He said, "I don't want what you're selling." I said, "I'm not selling anything." He said, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm giving away money." He said, "Well, how much money are you giving away?" I said, $1 million. He said, "Now that I'll talk to you about." So it's a real good icebreaker. I haven't had anybody, I mean, initially people will say they don't want it, but this is really a conversation starter, and it's helped me out as far as elections in the past too, when I've done other campaigning. So it's something that I would expect you to do. I think $1 million is a good idea. I think $1 million is a good icebreaker, and you'll get to know the people if you take the time. Now I know you can't probably put in the amount of time that I do because you're probably working, you've got other things to do. But here's the thing too, is that if you don't have time to do a resume, if you don't have time to say what you're going to do for the precinct, if you don't have time to talk to me, then what do you want to be a committee person for? Because as a committee person, you know, you're responsible for your precinct. And it's to get to know the people in the precinct. And if you don't have time to do that, then you don't have time to be a committee person. So, the other thing that I've done too is I've worked with several people on the phone. And, you know, some people are kind of reluctant whether to go on the phone or not. You can come to my house, we'll go on the phone, I'll go to your house, we'll go on the phone, or we can go knocking on doors, door to door. You know, if there's some kind of reluctance that you have, if you're afraid of doing that or reluctant to do that, I will do that with you, you know? And so that you're comfortable with the situation. So, the other thing I was thinking about doing, and we'll see how many people we get tonight and see what Terry Lemming has to say. But you know, these thank you police officer signs, I was so aggravated last year with the way the police were treated that it just enraged me. And I went to Tony and I said, I went to Terry and I said, I gotta make these signs. I gotta let the police officers know that we care. And he said, Bill, you better be careful because somebody's gonna burn down your house or shoot at you. And I said, I just can't allow the police to take this abuse that they were taking. So I made 1,500 signs and gave the signs out. Now that's another way that we can introduce yourself and going up to somebody's house, because you already then, the way it worked last year is I just put it on Facebook and they gave me their name, address, telephone number. I went there and was given an opportunity to talk to the people as I was giving out the signs. So it's another opportunity to do that. Now, I'd like to be able to do that with people that are precinct captains, so that in your precinct, as I get the calls, and I got, by myself, I did 1,500. And we can do the same thing. Now, they weren't, admittedly, they weren't all in Lockport Township. Some of them were in south in Joliet, some of them were west in the western, east in the eastern places. I even got some in Cook County. But most of them, the big majority, was in Lockport Township. And what's cool, if you go around Lockport, you'll see that the signs are still there. People are still putting the signs in. So, so I'd like to, see what the thoughts are on that. And see what else. I have had a big problem with emails. What happened is, I'm very old, and I've been on AOL since in 1987. The problem with AOL is it wouldn't take, in mass, it wouldn't take the attachments. So I went over to Gmail, which I'm having a difficulty on. By the way, Ryan, did you get Zion? Did you get my emails?
Huh?
Did you get my emails?
No.
What are you doing? How'd you find out about today's meeting?
Huh?
How'd you find out about today's meeting?
Camille?
So you never got my email?
No.
I sent it to Zion, and I sent it to, then I sent it to you and
I
Ned.
get some, sometimes I don't. So.
I never got an email.
Well, you're not a committee person, so.
I am elected Republican.
Well, okay. Sorry about that. Anybody else? Yeah. I mean, you can, that's fine, you can get emails. But what I was doing too, and how you guys on AOL know that, is that I would send it out on AOL too. And so some of the, the people that weren't getting it on AOL, on Gmail, would tell me they weren't getting it. So. The Central Committee asked us if we wanted to donate. I guess what happened is there's some money or something that was short as far as the rent. What happened, the reason that we lost the building is the rent wasn't paid in time, and so the landlord evicted all of us from the building. So so that's there. Now Judy sent me an email and said you'd like to participate in the fundraiser June 25th, and they're asking if you'd like to donate some money. And so also, that's something else that can be brought up tonight. Also, we can go and go to a table, and we can buy a table at this dinner that they're having for $1,000. And,
That's $800.
Can they see 100?
oh, compared to 100, compared to 1,000.
100 people at a table?
Okay, what happened is the tables are $1,000 unless you buy a whole table. If you buy a whole table, then it's $800. All right.
Did you see my email?
All right. Okay, we've got time. Yes, John.
The fundraiser on the 25th for Central Committee.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little more about that? That's
No.
an annual event, isn't it?
I don't know.
I believe that's an annual event.
Yes, it is. Me and Camille on the.
It's at the Renaissance Center,
Okay.
and what's the event called? Okay, so they're going to have a keynote speaker. Who is that?
Sheriff David Clark.
Do you want Kyle and I to?
Yeah, we're on the committee.
Discuss the event?
Right.
Like that's a great idea.
Circles.
Kyle and I are on the committee for that event. So the township can purchase a table for $800 instead of the standard $1,000. That's for 10 tickets, so it's a discount of $20 a ticket if you buy from your township, if you guys get a table. We do have, it is at the Renaissance Center. We have a VIP portion, which you'll get to meet all the gubernatorial candidates. You'll get to meet Sheriff Clark. I think, was Burke going to be late or leaving in? Jim Riley will be there, the Will County Sheriff candidate. And then,
That guy, Chicago. FOP.
John Catanzara from Chicago FOP. And then we also have Illinois Supreme Court Justice Burke. He'll be there as well. So the VIP event, that's separate from the table purchase. It's a $75 extra charge for that, and that comes with hors d'oeuvres and two drink tickets. And you also get pictures with everybody that's there. So we're having, it's going to be a Q&A for all the candidates. We have David Shostokis, the attorney, and we have Nick Piccarello. They are who he ran for Will County Executive. He's also a former sheriff. They will be formulating the questions to present to all the candidates. It's not going to be targeted questions to each person, like individual specific questions. It's going to be questions, the same question will be asked of all the candidates. And then we're also going to have note cards on the tables for you to submit any questions, and if whatever the most popular questions are, then we'll go ahead and ask that to all the candidates. I'm missing anything. Oh, we're also having raffles. There's going to be raffles there.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be raffling, should we take it?
Did you get it?
Yeah, so we're going to be raffling a gun.
Yeah.
We just picked one out, so
It's like, is it the?
I think we're getting well, we'll keep that a secret. What kind of gun?
Okay.
So we're going to be raffling a gun
Yeah.
and a bunch of other things.
So
So
you
the
can say
time,
what kind of gun it is?
Well, if there's a special gun we have in mind, we don't have it yet. But
well, for right now, it's looking like we're getting a P365.
yeah, there's
a 6-hour.
There's paperwork. So. And then also the township can make their own raffle basket and make money off of that. as a township.
So Judy sent out emails to
Yeah.
all the townships to make raffle baskets. So the township wants to make a basket to raffle off.
Fundraise for that.
Yes.
I'd like to add, in support of what you're saying, thank you, it is our express purpose, it's our express purpose as LTRO, according to our bylaws, to be supportive in the efforts to raise funds for not just LTRO, but the central committee. So it's really important for us to try to be there and have a presence, especially if we want to be recognized for doing what we say we're going to do. That's kind of important.
Do you have any previous material?
I just have the flyers that we just updated the flyers last night because we just got another gubernatorial candidate wanted on, and then Justice Burke just got added on. So it's not printed yet, but it is on the Will County page, Facebook page.
It starts at 7, right?
It starts at 7 p.m.
So you could email that as an attachment. Could you send that out, or give it to
Sure.
Bill and he'll send it out?
Well, Bill's having a hard time sending mass emails with attachments to
Sure.
everyone, so I can go ahead and send that to the group.
Sounds great.
ma'am.
That would be great.
Can you send emails out for all this information?
Yeah, so all the information is on the flyer that I created for the event, so I can send that out, and then there's also the link to purchase tickets on there. If the township does purchase a table, George will then, he'll get the notification, and then he'll email whoever places the purchase, which I would assume would be Bill, and then it will be asking all the names of the individuals planning on attending. So,
Is there anything else? Looks like our guest, our speaker has arrived, and some of our other guests. Yes.
I have something. I would ask for you if you would like to explain to everyone in this room why you had Democratic signs in the yard and why you sabotaged the
All right, thank you. Anything else? All right,
I'm just asking Bill to explain that.
I'd like to make a motion. Somebody make a motion to close the meeting?
Yeah, he knows.
Would you want to answer the question?
I just want to make a comment on, you said we have to change things in here. Last election, we already did start changing things. We went from having 3 elected officials to 4 elected officials, so things are starting to change. We need more help from everybody to work on the same agenda, same speech to everybody so that we can get 5, 7, 8 people elected in the next election.
All right.
You want to answer the question why it's signs in your
Anybody
yard?
else?
Why'd you have the Democrat signs in your yard? Yes or no? Why'd you have them? I would like to know.
There's no, I'd like to, anyone make a motion?
You already not answering the question about why you had Democratic signs in the yard for Lockport Township, the Democratic Work slate. You sabotaged both of these women who had she won, but she had a very close election.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you, you've asked the question, you know, I'm gonna ask you to stop asking the same question. If you don't, I'll ask our Sergeant of Arms to pick you up and leave.
You just like
No
to
violence.
Yeah,
No violence.
yeah, no violence, right, exactly. Okay. Do I have a motion?
Okay, you don't answer
So
the question,
moved.
it's fine.
Okay, a second?
Second.
All those in favor of ending the meeting?
Yeah.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, there's 2 opposed, the rest are for it. All right, the meeting's closed. All right, the next,
Robert's rules, are you going to follow those, or are you just going to?
No.
No? Okay. That's a good answer.
okay. I do have a video that I wanted to show. I mean, as I talked through the precinct, many people brought up this problem that we've been having with these laws that have really restricted the amount of work that the policemen can do to protect us. And there was a video, and I hope I can get it up here, that I saw. Excuse me. Okay, don't worry about it. Okay.
I got you. It's okay. It's on camera, so.
Older section of Romeo.
This is his house with the sign. Okay,
I had a video that I found on YouTube, which was a kind of an introduction to what Terry's going to be talking about, and that is, you know, how this, not only here in Illinois, but throughout the country, how these various laws have severely restricted what the police can do as far as in protecting us. So, would you please welcome Terry Lemmy, our chief of police.
I think I know pretty almost just so I get a feel for the crowd. You all live in Lockport Township?
Yes.
And how many people live in the town of Lockport? So most of you live in the town. Okay. Any reporters here? You gotta raise your hand or I'll catch you. What I wanted to talk about is The 752-page bill that was passed in January at 3 o'clock in the morning. So our legislators had a law enforcement, sweeping law enforcement bill that they received, I think at 3 in the morning, and they voted on it by 4 in the morning. 752 pages, nobody, even Evelyn Wood couldn't read that.
Louder,
Who said that?
louder. Speak loud.
I don't know if it gets any louder. Sit closer.
I've got a mic.
No, where's the mic, Bill?
Okay, all right.
No, I don't need a mic
You're
now.
right.
I'll step over here. So, I have a whole sheet of provisions in the bill that I could go over. It'd probably take a little while. I want to answer your question. I want to tell you about some of the key components of what's going on. But before I do that, I want to talk about a little bit what's going on in Lockport. So, Lockport, and I can pretty much say for Lockport Township, but Lockport area is a very safe community. For the last 4 years, we made the safest cities list, Lockport City had. 2 years ago, we were 10th on the safest city list. So, it's a safe city. But you still got to be prepared because there's a lot of crime going on around us in the areas around us. And a lot of it's caused by the momentum caused by the bill. And the stuff that was going on before the bill was passed, like no bail. In Cook County right now, there's no law that says no bail right now. That starts in 2022, but in Cook County, they basically have a no bail rule there. Unless it's a murder, if somebody's in jeopardy of being hurt, you're going to get out. So even people who are shooting people, people who are caught with a gun, they're given bail right away. And what do you think happens when they get out again? So there's not a lot of fear of being prosecuted. There might be fear of being arrested, but not fear of reoffending again because they're going to get out. The effect that it's having on us here in the Lockport area is anybody had their car broken into?
Yeah.
How many? 2, 3? You 2?
No.
All right. 2 people? 3? 3 people? All right. 3 people had their car broken into. That's a pretty big percentage of number of people here. The reason that's happening is there's groups of gang members from Chicago and the south side of Chicago, people who are not from our area. They're going into different towns every day, and they'll come with a group full of 6 people. One person will drive, drops 2 off at every block, and they go right down. And they're doing it usually around 3, 4, 5 in the morning when no one's around. And they just pull on handles of cars that are unlocked, only cars that are unlocked, because they're smart. So if they break a window, it's going to wake up the residents, and then people are going to come out and call the police. So we've been inundated with them a year ago, really up until the last 3 or 4 months, they really subsided. I mean, they have subsided in the last 3 or 4 months. So what they do is they'll pull on the car door, and I can't believe the number of people leaving the cars open. You know, we put signs at every subdivision about 9 months ago saying lock your car. You might have saw them. I hope they're still up in the subdivision. And what was happening is they pull on the car door. If it's open, they will steal everything that's of value in the car. If they find the keys, they'll steal the car. If they find a garage door opener, they'll open your garage door and steal what's ever in your garage. Now, they haven't been known to go in a house. They haven't been known to try to get into the house. But that's happening all over the suburbs and in Chicago. And we feel it has a lot to do with the fact that people are reoffending and not being held accountable. So for your own safety, lock your door. Simple as that. Just lock your door. But we as police professionals, we believe that these people are going to reoffend at some point. That they're going to evolve into a more serious crime, like carjacking. Lots of carjackings are up greatly in the Chicago area and in the suburbs. You know, we've had carjackings in Homer in our area here. So you need to be aware, as a person, you need to be aware when you're going to a business, no matter where you are, even if you're in Lockport, you're at a gas station.
Oh, Terry, we have an issue here.
He just tried to grab and then assault me basically, so I'm disturbed by that. And what that he's having somebody stand here and intimidate me is also very concerning to me.
You know what, the meeting has ended, and what you're holding up is really disrespectful to the police officer, and it's very disrespectful, and no one cares at this moment, and if that's something you want to talk about, you need to talk about that sometime other, and take the respect of our officer.
Thank you.
There's no need to be holding that up at this time. So you're not cute at all. Get respect.
Thank you.
I know, really?
You should care.
That was uncalled for.
We came here with an agenda, and what
not
you're
yell at me.
holding
Do not
up
yell
is
at me.
very
Do not-
disrespectful.
I'm sitting here quietly and peacefully. I've said nothing. That's it.
Sit quietly, say.
I'm sitting here quietly and peacefully. I did not say anything about this. I did not disrupt him. I'm not no disrespect to him.
Can we please get back to the business?
Yeah, I would like for him to keep
Officer,
speaking.
disrespect. Can we get back to the business at hand?
Yeah.
Thank you.
He can stay here. I don't know what he's got in his hand, but whatever.
There's something from the other,
It's not on the agenda.
from the other man's meeting, has nothing to do with this.
Oh, okay.
It's
All right.
frustrating.
It
So-
does,
Yeah,
he
like
says.
you made it an issue. I don't know why you took the time
Ready?
and the
Yep.
input from everybody.
Thank you.
I wasn't trying to disrupt anything.
So you as citizens, what you need to watch out for is you need to be aware. Again, just listen, everybody just be quiet, everybody, okay? If he wants to sit here, he can sit here, it's not bothering me. But everybody needs to be quiet so I can continue, right?
Sorry.
We're not gonna be
I'm
all.
sorry.
All right. So what you need to be aware of is you're getting gas coming from the, be aware of where your wallet is, where your purse is, how you're holding it, where your keys are to your car. It's happening around us because of, in my opinion, it's because of the bail, regarding bail. And that's going to be a statewide law. I could talk to you today as police chief. I'm not really going to give you my own personal opinion because I'm in uniform today and I'm not representing the views of the city. I'm representing the views of the police department. So I would like to get into the law, take a little bit of time, tell you what the law involves, and then I'll take some questions from you. How long do I have?
Midnight.
Till midnight.
All right.
I've got a video now that I think I'd like to play. It's 6 minutes.
Oh, okay, good.
And the sound isn't that loud, so we can't have any disruption.
Is this in the same section?
It was, I think we anticipated that the governor was going to sign the bill. Certainly we're disappointed with that outcome today, but as I said, it wasn't unexpected. I think, unfortunately this continues to be a process where law enforcement's not really getting an opportunity to share specific concerns. We did send a letter to the governor as well as many different sheriffs, chiefs of police, individual officers, members of the community, asking for the governor to consider a veto on the bill so that way we can work through a lot of these issues in the spring session without the push of implementation being July 1st for a lot of aspects of the bill. Unfortunately, that request was not granted. So now we deal with where we sit today. We've tried to do an effective job of making sure that members of the community understand the different aspects of this bill, the concerns that have been stated by law enforcement. Certainly when we heard the governor talk today specifically about, that opponents of the bill don't want any change, we prey on fear-mongering, and that this bill is going to make them safer than before. Obviously, I don't agree with that. First of all, I don't think that we're or fear-mongering by any stretch of the imagination. I think it is appropriate to try to inform people about what the impacts of the actual legislation are, and we attempted to do that in very specific examples. But those are just some of the examples. To say that we're an organization or a group of professionals that always say no is completely inaccurate. In fact, I think you heard General Raoul specifically say that we weren't, that we came to the table and had negotiations with him on, lo and behold, one of the issues that people find to be the biggest issue, and that's holding police accountable. And that was the issue that we came to the table on, because we were asked to by the general. The hearing process that went on through the fall, Senator Sims indicated that they had 9 hearings, over 30 hours of testimony. Anybody that's been on Zoom call knows that that's really not a discussion or a conversation. It's an opportunity for you to share some issues that you have potentially, or share information on subjects is probably a better way to describe it. Because we really didn't know what we were debating at that point in time, or that we were debating anything. We were just talking about subjects. We certainly didn't know that there was a bill being based off of those subjects. Had we known that there was a bill, or had we seen the language, then we probably could have been more descriptive in our specific issues that we had.
Let me answer this just briefly, because I know time is short. Maybe we can do a follow-up interview with you a little longer. But have you heard from law enforcement officers, either sheriffs or others, about their concerns? And do you hear that you're going to have resignations coming because of the changes that this law makes?
Yeah, I mean, I think sheriffs are, obviously they're elected officials. So do we have some that are leaving? Yes. I know of 2 in the next 4 months that will be leaving. One at the end of this month and one during the summer. So now, was that decision specifically directly tied only related to this? No. But was this a factor? Yes. So I think that's an issue. We're talking about 2 out of 102 right there.
What about deputies? Are they concerned that they could face legal action from those that are arresting? And somebody said, and I forgot who put this out, that if there was a shooter and then the police came up and found the shooter, but he was no longer actively shooting, they couldn't arrest him. I found that hard to believe. Is that your understanding, or was that an overstatement?
No, well, but the other part of this is if you could be identified. So let's say that you knew it was Jim Kychuk that was the shooter when you came on scene, and you knew that there would be resistance provided by me, then yes, that's accurate. So it's not extreme. Unfortunately, the answer, the end result is extreme, but the reality of the situation there in the example is not. I mean, it's an accurate assessment of how the bill reads. And again, I'm certainly not going to sit here and tell you that I believe that it was the intent of the sponsors to do that, because I don't. But at the same time, I will also tell you that's the problem with this bill. I mean, you have 764 pages of issues like this that can come up. And Terry, I mean, you've been around this for a long, long time. How often have you seen good pieces of legislation come out of the lame duck?
It's rare, and it's certainly, in my estimation, not the way to pass legislation, to be passing this at literally the last moments of a 2-year legislation.
Right. This was the last bill that they did before they swore in the new General Assembly and swore out the old sine die. So my hope would be for the day, this is a very dangerous process. The good, bad.
All right, that's most of what I think is important.
That you have a calling to do it, to try to protect members of the community, that's what you were, not to get hokey, but that's a lot of us, we felt that calling to try to provide that.
And that's kind of what got me interested in asking Terry to come out, is that when you saw that how the police are restricted, the other thing too is I think it's important for us to realize, and I think Terry, you probably have these numbers as far as how many police officers, not here, but throughout the country, how many are leaving, and then how tough it is to fill those positions.
Well, Jim Kychuk, who was just on, he gave some numbers just recently. Don't quote me on the numbers, but it was something like He has 2 sheriffs that are quitting now. There's 102 sheriffs, there's 102 counties, 102 sheriffs. So something like 2 are quitting, 10 are not running anymore, you know, of the sheriff because of the law. In our town, when the law was passed, and they did do a trailer bill, I'll get into that later what a trailer bill is, but when the law was passed, we have a CSO, Community Service Officer. We look at our community service officers as like the farm team for the police department. They're young kids who come in, they start, and if they do good, we hire them as a police officer. We had a kid, he's 21 years old. He was looking forward to being a police officer, went to school for being a police officer. As soon as that bill came out, came to my office the next day and said, I don't want to be a cop. And we have 3 officers that are going to retire that may have stayed on. And a lot of officers are worried about their about liability. Will I get sued? Because some of the laws, especially when it first came out, were very difficult for us as police officers. Like, they mandated that we have body cameras. And then they created a class 3 felony for violations, police officers, violations of the body camera law. So the initial law said that police officers could not review their body cam footage before they write their report. Now, anybody could FOIA that and get it, like a police officer. So basically, they're putting us in a terrible position because if a police officer writes a report, is involved in it, it's a serious incident, they write a report, it's a very difficult time in a police officer's life. You have to shoot somebody, or even if it's just an arrest. Say there's a disturbance in here. All right, maybe that's a bad one. All right, maybe that's a bad one. Say there was arrest for theft. You write a theft report, and your report differs from the body cam footage. You could be charged with a class 3 felony. Does that seem fair?
No.
Any of us? Nobody's memory is that good. So what they did, they created what they call a trailer bill. And they do that on a lot of legislation, especially these omnibus bills that are huge, like this one, 752 pages. So what they do is after the bill is passed, then they start what they call a trailer bill with new language to correct some of the difficulties, which they did. They did correct that. But I believe their intent was initially to not let officers view it. And remember, this bill that was passed by the legislators in this area. They passed this bill. And I really don't think it really reflects the view of the people in this area. I really don't. I think this was a bill made for Chicago. And the problem Chicago had, we don't have drive-by shootings. We don't have the gang violence that Chicago had. But yet and the rest of the state is being forced to abide by this new bill. And I don't think that's fair. What I'd like to do is read, I got a American Police Beat today, I got it in the mail. And it says they were doing studies and the results found that nearly 3/4 of participants claim to have full faith in their local cops. 3/4. But yet you would think, if you listen to the national media, that police officers are villains. I've been a cop for, in March, I finished my 39th year, I'm in my 40th year of police. Whoa! Some people say experience for some is a repetition of mistakes for others. So I'll take credit. But things are cyclical. Things are cyclical. The pendulum swings back and forth. But in 40 years as a police officer, I've never had an excessive force. If you listen to the national media, you would think that all police officers are brutal felons and should be charged. And I've been here for almost 8 years, and And we haven't had one excessive use of force complaint since I've been in the locker. But yet, that's not something to brag about because that's something, I mean, I guess it is, but I mean, that's going on all in this area. It doesn't happen very often. But what happens is, you know, police officers, there's a very few amount of police officers that go bad. Yeah, I'll take questions later. I'm not going to deny that. Derek Chauvin, the guy in Minnesota, he did a terrible thing. That was a terrible thing. That represented us. I felt terrible that I was a police officer when he did that. That was a terrible thing. But it's a very small percentage. And one police officer makes a bad mistake, what happened? It's in front page news and it's on CNN the next day. And a lot of times, in my opinion, not accurately portrayed. I've been hearing lately that, why don't you shoot him? Why don't police shoot why don't they wing him? Why don't they wing him? So, you know, and I'll tell you about how winging them goes. So, I was in a shooting in 1984. Remember I told you, 40 years, huh? In 1984, I was in a shooting. I was called to a hotel, and it was called in as an armed robbery. And I got there myself, and there was another officer came in behind me, and I was walking down the lane of the hotel. It was a 2-story motel. And I got halfway down, and I asked the lady, what does he look like? She told me, and I walked down, and I got halfway down, there was no cars between us, and the guy came out and shot right at me. I had my gun out and everything, and I shot, and I was the best shot in the department at the time. I was here, the guy was right there at that wall. Okay, right there, close as you are right now. And I shot, I remember I'm the best shot in the department. And I shot 2 shots, one on this side of his head, 2 shots this side, and the 5th shot hit the back of went in the room, and then bounced off the back wall and hit the picture window and died right there. I was from here to here, and I couldn't hit him. You imagine, can I wing him? Can I wing him? But see, the thing is, when we're on the range and we're shooting, and we're on a shooting range and we're shooting the gun, there's no stress involved. Ready, fire, boom, boom. You know, back the time we had speed loaders. This is an automatic. You know, guys know the difference between automatic and a revolver. When I had back then I had a revolver. So when you shoot, I had 6 rounds in there. I thought I shot 6 at them, but I shot 5. And we're on the range, we had speed loaders. So you shoot your gun like this, and then you open this cylinder, dump the other ones out. We had the speed loader, put them in like that. And I could do that so good on the range. I could do that so good on the range. You do like this, and oh man, I was good. Everybody's like, hey, you're the best shot. But in real life, under real life conditions, it's the worst day of your life. Guy's shooting at me, trying to kill me. The worst day of your life. So in this situation, I shot 5 rounds at him, and then I went like this. I did everything like in the range. I went like this, and my hand was shaking so much I couldn't get him in. So I threw that gun away, and I happened to have an ankle gun, and I was back up. So I mean, I didn't kill the guy because I'd had to live with that, but I wanted to because he wanted to kill me.
Yeah.
But point being, none of us are good enough to wing somebody, especially under stress. So let's throw that one right out the drain, right? Why don't we wing them? That is the stupidest thing I ever heard. So I want to get into, Bill's all right, get into the law a little bit? All right. So I'm retired from the Illinois State Police. I spent 25 years with the Illinois State Police, which makes me really old. But state police, the difference between state police and local police, there's a lot of differences. They do a different job than we do. But the state police has a lot of funding for training. It's a big organization. The state has money for funding. When I came to a local department, I found that there's not as much training, and the reason being is when we send somebody for training, it costs a lot of money to send somebody to training, even if it's like a 1-day or 2-day training, but then you have to hire somebody to fill his place on the road, and we have to pay time and a half for that. Where state police has the funding to do that. So when I came in almost 8 years ago, we did We have a lot of mandatory training that the state already has mandated. When I came in, we had an additional 16 hours of training. And now the state has required us to do even more. But what they're requiring us to do, the training they require us to do is good. A lot of it's good, I agree with it. But there's no funding. You know, Lockport's a small city. And when the mayor and our council have to think about how they're going to spend money, they have to prioritize things. You know, what are we going to train? Well, what are we going to spend money on? Are we going to fix the roads? Are we going to fix the 1800s water pipes that are under the ground, you know, in some areas? Or are we going to pay for an additional 100 hours for each officer, which will cost $1 million? You know what I mean? I think you get the point. It's expensive to train. We want to train. We want to train our officers more. But here's what some of the things the state wanted in this new law. We have to maintain police misconduct records permanently. That's okay. Destined custody requires agencies to report to the Criminal Justice Authority. You know, that we don't complain about that. We have to provide neuroscience and addiction for law enforcement. Medication-assisted treatment, criminogenic. Does anybody know what that means? I don't either. And I'm the police chief. Why drug treatment works. And if you live in Lockport, you probably know we have a deflection program. We've had it for years called Safe Passage, where drug addicts can come right to the police station. The city council approved $10,000 a year. We can get drug addicts immediately into long-term counseling. We've already helped 23 people that live in our town start a new road to recovery. I should say 20, 3 of them died. And if you know anything about heroin, it's a very addictive drug, and even people who beat the drug sometimes go into remission. That's the lure of the drug. But 20 people are on the road to recovery, might have a new life. We recently, what we found with our Safe Passage program was that nobody was coming in. Nobody used Safe Passage for the last year. And what we attribute that to isn't to the pandemic. We contributed to the rhetoric of the national media against police. Why would a drug addict come to a police station? You know, they don't trust us no more because of the anti-police stuff going on. So with the county executive's office, we started a new program called Naloxone Plus. Naloxone Plus. Naloxone is Narcan, and it's a drug. It's a control. It was a controlled substance. Now it can be possessed by regular people. Basically, and I've seen it happen. I was leaving the township building about 2 years ago, and there was a guy in front of me, or a girl in front of me, bouncing off both curbs. And I stopped her, and she stopped at a light, and I tried to stop with the lights on, and she fell asleep at the wheel. She'd fallen asleep. So I hit the air horn, she pulls over, I get out of the car. As I'm talking to her, I look in the car, and there's a dead guy in the passenger seat. And I said, hey, he's dead. So we got him out of the car, in a backup come, and he was lying on the pavement, and no breathing, no heartbeat, and we administered Narcan in his nose, and then we pumped his chest. And after about, I think the third dose, he sat up, and some people get violent and they fight us, but this guy sat up, and by the time the ambulance got there, we walked him to the ambulance.
Wow. Wow.
But the point is that that we already have deflection programs here in Lockport. Let's see, avoiding racial bias, promoting racial and gender equity in deflection, working with community partnerships, deflection in rural communities. Mental health screening for officers requires Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board to establish statewide minimum standards. New requirements in curriculum for probationary officers, which we're totally fine with. It's CIT training, role-playing, use of force, high-risk traffic stops, totally in support of that. I mean, we don't have, we'd like the funding to go with it. And then the body camera body camera viewing now has changed too. They changed that now, as an officer can review it unless it's a police shooting, a police misconduct case. So for most everything else, they can view their video ahead of time. And I think our legislators in this area, and including State Attorney Jim Glasgow, they really supported that change and a lot of other changes. Our legislators who initially didn't vote for the bill, I mean, they did vote for the bill, which was, in my opinion, against the police, but they did do the right thing in the trailer bill, I believe, and it's correcting some of the worst things. We have additional monthly reporting of health issues, mandatory reporting, use of force, military equipment. Can't have military equipment. We don't have any. We don't have any tanks or anything. Restoration of driving privileges. So if you're suspended right now for not paying, say you do something and you get your license suspended, and then they suspend you for not paying a fee, that you can be reinstated for that and a bunch of other things. So basically you can keep getting suspended for not paying and then continue to get your license back. Let's see. There's a section which prohibits certain kinds of force. There's a duty to intervene where police officers, if you see a police officer doing something wrong, you have to correct it or you have to report it, and we're fine with that. We don't, police officers don't like dirty cops. We don't want to be around dirty cops. Law enforcement misconduct, no-knock warrants. Anybody know what a no-knock warrant is? So, I was in drugs for years. I was a statewide drug enforcement coordinator for 4 years, but I was also undercover narcotics agent, and I was a drug unit commander. And what happens when you do a drug search warrant, in the past, if we had information that somebody had drugs and that they were going to flush it, or we could get a no-knock search warrant. But you had to articulate in the search warrant why it had to be no-knock. I was also on our SWAT team, and we served probably 200 warrants when I was on it. And a lot of them were drug warrants, but some of them were for bad people with guns. And the reason you'd want a no-knock search warrant, either for drugs or guns, but specifically for guns, is if you know the person has a bad history, you know that they have guns, you know they're a convicted felon, they can't have guns, and the guns were recently in that house. Now, do you think, in that situation, do you think it's reasonable as everyday citizens to knock on that door and go, "Hi, we're the police, can we come in?" So I think the legislature and the trailer bill have corrected that too. I think that is corrected, but in the original bill, they were looking at getting rid of it. So they also had a number of different things in the bill that were I thought straightened out. They were actually much better now. There's a lot of things that I saw that thing that Bill put in the paper. I was like, oh boy, that's the handcuff thing. Oh, really, you're gonna get me in trouble. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't like the bill. I think it was really bad. I think it sends a bad message to police officers. And in my opinion, it's a backdoor way of defunding the police, because now people don't want to be police officers. But I will tell you that in this town, I don't think that law is going to affect us very much. There's a provision in there, you have to give offenders 3 phone calls. So we arrest somebody, got to give them 3 phone calls.
Wow.
Can you imagine if we have a mass arrest of 10 people, which we've had, you have to arrest 10 people, And then you have to give each one of them 3 phone calls. And it also, right now, the way the law is written, we're hoping to change that, because that's not effective till 2022. And there is indication that the legislature will change that, but it also gives the person arrested access to the phone. So let's just go through one scenario. A domestic disturbance where the husband punches the wife and she's bleeding and she's hurt bad. And she goes to the hospital, he goes to jail. And she has her phone with her, and we give him access to his phone, and he calls her up and harasses her again. That doesn't seem logical. Or if it's a drug dealer, like oftentimes when we work with drugs and drug dealers, we arrest somebody for drugs, and we try to go right to his dealer, try to get his dealer. Well, normally when we arrest somebody, we take their phone from them because we don't want them calling anybody. Yeah, what do you think the drug dealer's going to do? He's going to call the dealer and go, hey man, I just got busted. Don't deal with nobody. There's going to be the cops. Qualified immunity. You guys know what qualified immunity is? Qualified immunity? Anybody? Qualified immunity is actually a federal concept, but it's used in state court. Basically, it protects a police officer that makes a honest mistake during an arrest or any type of situation. So an officer that makes an honest mistake doing their job under stress, you're protected by qualified immunity, which means you can't be sued personally. And they're trying to eliminate that so that officers can be sued for making mistakes even under stress. So it was going to be it was in the original bill, and then it was removed. And now they created a commission to look into it. So I don't think that subject is dead. Now, there was also a provision in the original bill for collective bargaining. So, as a police chief, we have unions in Illinois, and unions are very strong. And collective bargaining was in that law because it is extremely difficult to get rid of a police officer in Illinois. Even in Chicago, it's extremely hard to get rid of a police officer because of the union contract and all that. So that was in the bill, and then it was removed. And any ideas why that was removed?
Politics.
Illinois? Unions? No, Illinois is pro-union, so that was bargained out of it. So we as a police administrator believe that was a good law, that would have been fine to put in. That was the one good thing we thought. I mean, there was other good things regarding education, but that was one really good thing we thought would be really good. There's a bunch of other things that was included in there. I could spend an hour on this. You had a question?
What was your training to be a police officer?
Say again?
What was your training? What experience do you have besides being on the field? Were you at the academy? Are you a former soldier?
No. You asked, was I a soldier? No. What experience do you have? Well, I could get into that, but that's sort of boring.
I want to hear it.
Well, I spent 25 years in state police. I was the statewide drug coordinator for 4 years. I was on the SWAT team for 5 years. Went to academy too. I went to 2 academies because I was a local officer and I had to go to the Cook County Academy. And then I joined the state police, and they don't give you any break. You got to go through the whole academy. 25 weeks in Springfield. So that's good enough.
25 weeks, sir. That's what.
It's more now. Yes, more now. It's basic training, yeah. And there's an article, and I think in this also says that cosmetologists have to have more training than police officers. But I think right now it's like state police. You spend like 6 months in the academy. Local officers, it's 16 weeks. So I mean, it's a lot of training. It's if you think about it, you're paying an officer full salary to to be in the academy, and you're paying the academy to train them. So it's very expensive. Yes?
So I'm curious about that 3 phone calls before you get to exercise a warrant for arrest. What do they stipulate on it? That you have to, they have to answer the phone for that to be considered a phone call?
It's not 3 phone calls for a warrant. It's just when we arrest them, they're allowed 3 phone calls in 3 hours.
They are allowed 3
Yeah.
phone calls. I beg your pardon.
No, yeah, they're allowed 3 phone calls in 3 hours.
So they can call 3 attorneys.
What's that?
They can call 3 different attorneys.
Yeah.
They're allowed 3 calls.
They can call,
To
they can call
anybody.
3 anybody. In,
I got a question about downtown Rockport with all the stores. Has there ever been any break-ins in any of these business stores downtown or in the area in Rockport? By any vandals?
So the answer is,
during
have there been any break-ins downtown? You know, to the best of my knowledge, not lately. I mean, there was a vandalism at one of the places, but it was...
Sprout. Naked Sprout.
Yeah, okay, Naked Sprout. There was vandalism. What happened to Naked Sprout?
Broke the windows.
But that, I think that was a couple of drunk guys that left the bar. And I don't think, I think it was accidental. I don't know if they really meant it.
I'm talking about somebody walking with a pistol threatening a cart.
Well, actually, the only kind of violent crime we have here in this town, that what I would consider violent crime, and we really don't have any we virtually have no violent crime here in this city. Now, the only thing that would be considered violent crime is when somebody gets off the expressway and burglarizes the Verizon store. They break the window and they go and steal the cell phones. For some reason, I don't know why they don't lock the phones in the back. You know, I don't get it, but we had a burglary to one of the liquor stores as well. Broke the window, took something real quick, and then before the officers get there, that happens once in a while. I mean, I'll tell you a quick story. About 6 years ago, I had a friend of mine from the state police, or 2 friends from the state police come and pick me up for lunch, and my car was getting worked on, my squad car. So I said, hey, could you guys drive? And they drove, and I forgot where he went. And on the way back, we get an armed robbery at the bank next to the Walgreens. I said, hey, could you guys drive me there? And that's the only bank robbery I think we've had the whole time I was here. But those crimes are not created by our residents, you know. And I would say most of the crime, like the liquor store, it was a juvenile from Peoria, because we caught his fingerprints and later we were able to catch him. But throws a rock through the window, and he was doing it all over. He did it in all the suburbs, and finally he was caught.
Wasn't there someone that they would transport to the jail or something like that, and they jumped off the bus and over there by the bank?
That was when I was on the state police.
That was chasing around.
That was about 10 years ago, and I responded to that when
Yeah.
I was on the state police. Yeah, he was being transported to jail, and he jumped out at like 100, right by Rocco.
Yeah, yep.
And then he ran and he hid somewhere, and he was later captured. He died. He died too. That guy died.
There's a few things that I wanted to bring up, Terry, and that is, you know, since this defund the police, it's really unbelievable when you hear about the statistics. You know, like Milwaukee has got twice the rate of murders as the cities in the United States. They go through the different suburbs in Milwaukee in addition to the city. They said that Milwaukee homicides, you know, since this defund the police, and then this other rule that they had here, but it's up 180%. St. Louis is up 40%. And Chicago's only up 24%. But having said that,
So we're winning.
the amount of people that were murdered in Chicago in a year, and it's only 17%, 784. And this is all with, and then of course the police were also killed throughout the United States. I don't know if you have that number, but I mean, you hear about defund the police, and the police are less likely to get involved in these crimes. And so, because they don't want to run through, like Terry was talking about, they don't want to be exposed to the losing their job, losing their house, losing, you know, everything that they have to lose. Oh, their life, I forgot about that, yeah, losing their life too, you know. So I think, you know, and the reason that I thought that it was imperative that Terry is here, is that the reason that this happens is, can you imagine being a police officer and you're going to do something, get involved, and you have to read a 746? 752 page report, or law, before you arrest the guy. 752, or whatever the number. It's a lot of stuff that they put in that the police have to know about. And how is he going to, you know, by the time I finish down the 20th page, the guy's gone, right? So, so it's imperative, I believe, and I said this earlier in the meeting, is that we have 37,000 registered voters here in Lockport Township. Of the 37,000, about 10,000 voted. Now these are registered voters. These are people, you know, not people that are illegals or anything else. These are legal people that registered to vote, and only 10,000 came and voted. Now the reason that these laws get into effect is because of the people that we allow in. And it's because of our neglect as far as getting involved. And so another thing I want to talk about was the thank you police officer signs. That was a year ago, but I was just so totally disgusted with what was happening to the police. And I said to Terry, I can't take this. I mean, this is crazy. He helped me design, actually, he designed the sign. And he said, but Bill, you got to be careful because, you know, you could get your house burned down or shot or whatever. And I said, I don't care. I can't stand this anymore. And so I was able to distribute 1,500 signs throughout the greater area here. And Terry, I wanted you to, you know, express to them what it means to the police officers where they see, because these signs are still up. If you go through the neighborhoods, these signs are still up. And, you know, what does that mean to the
The original signs had Lockport Love on them, and the money that was collected went to Lockport Love. And that helps families right here in Lockport. Bert back there, he's our vice president. And Bert can tell you what we do with the money. It goes right here in town, help people truly in need. But what did it do? Well, like I told you before, I don't think we're really affected by a lot of the things going on in Chicago and that. You need to be aware of, but you do need to be aware of it. But our police officers can be exposed to that when people are driving through town. I think most of our residents support the police. So I can't really express the joy that our officers felt when they saw them signs all over. Not only here, I live in Lamont, and everybody on my block had one, except me. And then my neighbor said, why don't you have one? I go, well, it's like bragging. So I do have one now. But I will tell you, Bill, thank you so much for doing that. Like the officers, the amount of joy they experience from seeing something simple like that sign. And when all the negative rhetoric about police was going on in Lockport, we had people baking apple pies for us, bringing in cookies, of course donuts, but every day, it was happening every day. And when they would bring it, they'd say, we're so sorry for what you're going through. We're so sorry for what you're going through. Because, again, in my opinion, a lot of the laws the state makes are made for the city of Chicago. And when they enact the state law, it's for the entire state. We all have to. I'll give you one example. They enacted a law so that police officers can't be in schools, or they tried to get the law enacted, where police officers can't be in schools. Now, we have a police officer at the high school every day, Lockport East, and one at Central. Do you think it's a good idea to put a squad car in front of that school so that people know there's a policeman in that building?
Yeah.
I mean, with all the school shootings going on, and a school shooter, a potential school shooter, isn't going to walk in there when he knows a police officer there, because they're not going to be able to do what they shouldn't say he, because it's not necessarily always a he. I think there was one time there was a female. But, I don't want to discriminate here. So you see a squad car out there, you're going to think twice about it. You might have somebody that's going to shoot back at you. I think it's a great, great thing to do. But what they did was they tried to eliminate that police officer in the schools. And that they may have done it in Chicago with the city council already, but I know they're still trying for a state law. Why does the rest of the city, or state, why does the rest of the city have to abide by that? When really it's the school boards that should decide whether a police officer, it should be locally controlled. School board should decide whether they want a police officer there. And I'm talking, if school board says, hey, we don't want a police officer, then that's fine then. But I don't think that's the case. I think most schools would want the police there. You had a question?
Yeah, for the qualified immunity, so that's for not only if you make a mistake by doing something, but isn't it also if you don't act? And let's say there's a case of domestic violence, you know, normally people would think of it as, okay, the police officer maybe laid excessive force, so he got sued. But let's say you didn't act, and that same man, you know, did end up offending his wife, and you left without taking action, couldn't you also be sued then?
That's a very good question. The question is, can you be sued for not acting? Like somebody's punching somebody and you just drive by. And the answer is, I don't know. I don't know about that. You know, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the bill they're proposing would have that in there. I don't know. Understood. Yeah.
I can answer that. In certain states, it has been. I don't know if what Illinois is specifically.
In certain states, it has been what?
It's been said that a police officer can be charged for failure to act. If you guys remember, there was that one incident where there was a school shooting and the police officer just did not respond to the shooting and instead hid.
Was that Florida? High school?
I think so. He eventually did get convicted, mostly because failure.
He was fired. He was fired,
and he also has a criminal act of endangerment, if I remember.
Negligence.
Negligence, and I think they tried to also charge him with third-degree manslaughter, but I don't know if that went through.
But it wasn't a civil suit. It was the opposite of a civil suit.
I think some people also did try
to sue him
because their children died.
So we got some cool things going on. If you could mark this down, on August 7th, we have a community unity event at Lockport East High School in the East Lot from 12 to 4.
What is that?
It's going to be, the police officers are going to be there, and they have stuff for the kids, face painting, jumpies and all that, and stuff. If you guys want to jump into jumpies, you're welcome to do it. But it's really more about getting together with the police. We're going to have food and all that. So this is at Lockport East High School in the east parking lot, the big parking lot there. We're going to have
What date? What?
The date is Saturday, August 7th, from 12 to 4.
7?
7th. It'd be great if you could make it. And just sit there, talk to a police officer, have something to eat, and jump into jumpy. I'm very willing to answer any other questions anybody has. I'm here till midnight, I guess.
So I looked up criminogenics. You asked about criminal. Apparently, it's the study of those behaviors that lead to criminal behavior. And one of the criminogenic substances, the most common is alcohol.
Okay. That makes sense. Surprising. I mean, sure. I mean, I think most of us know what the root cause is.
Yeah. Now they got a name for it, criminogenics.
Right. No, I agree. Anybody want to know what's going on at the police department, or any other questions or anything? Bill, anything I missed?
Well, before we let them go, I want you to, I've got some index cards in the back there. If you're interested in some more police officer signs, you can give me your name and address. I'm going to see if I can reinstate that. Also, you know, I really appreciate what you did, Terry. Thank you very much for your service, and thank you for coming in.